We love you, Dr. Funkenstein. Your phone is the best. Take my phone and give it a try to funk with the rest.
Oh, get it together. Leave it alone. If you don't want my loving, I'll be gone. I've damn near used this bottle lasts me about a year. I don't use it exclusively. I use it a lot. Need some more. I want to get into it, man. Moving, grooving. Didn't know it. Drat. Double. Better. All right. You know how I do it. This one ain't been wanting to play lately. Let's see if it wants to play today. Blue Argonite energy. Blue Argonite skull energy. It's Friday night. Well, good evening, chocolate mountaineers. For those who've never checked me out before, seeing it live or seeing it later, whatever the situation is for you, welcome. I go by the name of Big Pontiac, also known as Eight Wind. I'm also known as the Time Lord, because at different times you need to be different things. I am also, and some I take serious, I'm also the holder and probably the only one that really practices this in the country, or for that when for that matter, probably the world. But I am the holder of the infinite sacred ball game created by the Hero Twins. And as you know, I'm your galactic daddy-o, welcoming all my chocolate mountaineers on my galactic patio, from Minnesota reaching out to wherever you are and whatever they call the universe. Welcome one, welcome all. Tonight we are highlighting now Thursday, I bought a 12-pack of Alaskan Amber, and it's okay, but it's just when you buy the lower gravity beer, you just tend to go through them. So I had to go to North Coast Brewing with the Rasputin. This is the Imperial Russian Stout. So pop them if you got them, smoke them if you want them. And look at this rich amber goodness. Don't you wish you were me right now? I am the brokest man on YouTube, but rich in so many other ways. And as always, smoking on the XL Evolve. Been using my bongs lately for the wax, but my daughter's here, so this really don't smell like shit. So smoke them if you got them. So Purdue fell down tonight, so that I've only got one chance to make it into the NCAA tournament Final Four championship. Chopped screwed style. Welcome. Hard hitting. You won on UNC and St. Peter's. Woo, SD. I'll tell you what though, if Duke wins tomorrow, that is going to give me a little my change. What a win for St. Peter's. I will agree. CWE. Final Four, Coach K, revenge. I think we could be on to something. Yeah, Peacock Day. Yeah, when I started seeing that shit, I was like, wow. It's the last win they getting. It's the last win they getting. UNC lost. No, they play tomorrow. No, they won. UNC won. Yeah, UNC won. Carolina won. UNC beat St. Peter. Yeah, they won. UNC beat one tonight. Ooh. Wowzers. Duke versus UNC Final Four. I'm thinking you're right. Yep, Duke's gonna win it all. I'm pretty sure too. You're gonna take Duke or the money line. I'll give up the 4, take Duke and give up 4, no doubt. I've already got the bet in. I bet months and months ago on Duke. Because you know, when the season ends, all them bets go. Like when one championship ends, all them bets go in on who gonna win the next year. And if you get on that shit, you make it that too. I've called every game. Oh, you're on a hot streak, CWE. OG, should you do a midnight love radio show with my one last dance? Yeah, for Duke. PJ Allen, what's happening? About them Tar Heels. There you go. They did. Mac Fat, what's happening? I don't know what's wrong with it. It's doing good enough. What's happening? Lions Cup watch. It might crack. Oh, okay. Lions Cup watch. Okay. Uh, oh, Lions Cup watch. Okay. Your rich spirituality. Oh, indeed. Indeed. Up here, up here, it's definitely, I am definitely, uh, I think Bomber said New York and all that area going to Stone Mountain in Atlanta is all on granite. Well, I live on top of pink granite. I've got a big boulder about this big, but it's everywhere down here. It's our fill rock, and it's very high spiritual kind of rock. I put my free bet on St. Peter's money line. Okay, yeah, my big bet was on Carolina. Uh, uh, St. Peter was 650. Ooh, big underdog. St. Peter ran out the hell of a run. Yeah, they did. They did. They did. Gonzaga was favorite to win this year. They sure were. They sure were. They were favorite to win. Uh, Purdue got knocked out, and I had Purdue going into the championship game, and with Arizona getting knocked out, um, and UCLA getting knocked out. No, St. Peter's won. St. Peter's won. They won. They beat Purdue. Yeah, yeah. St. Peter's beat Purdue. Yeah, St. Peter's beat Purdue tonight. So they'll face North Carolina next, right? Yeah, for the East. They'll face North Carolina. So yeah, my only money is left on Duke. But if Duke wins it all, I'll be good. I'll really be good. I mean, I'll get a little bit for Duke if they win tomorrow, and then if Duke wins uh, the semifinal game, I'll get a little money because again, that's all happening next weekend. Next weekend be the semifinals. So then just found us another boy that got recruited from. It's called Cretin Durham Hall. He's gonna play at Michigan State next year. I didn't miss his name. They're playing for third place because our state tournament is going on right now. Um, yeah, I had Duke beating Arizona. Okay. It's gonna be hard for Duke to win. I don't think so. I don't think it's gonna be that hard for them to win. I don't. I don't. So looking at the filling in the board, we had St. Pete beat Purdue. St. Pete. And then we had NC beating UCLA. Of course, we've got Duke and Arkansas tomorrow. Miami beat, and that was actually a pretty decent game. Miami beat Iowa State, and then we had Kansas moving on. And I knocked Kansas out week 16. So, yeah, I'm not getting any money from that. Iowa and Wisconsin let me down. All the Big Ten schools are out. So tomorrow we're looking at Arkansas and Duke, and we're looking at uh, Houston and Villanova. Houston, Villanova, Duke, Arkansas. One more. Got to be more games than that. I'm missing a game. It's not just 2 games tomorrow. Yeah, maybe. No, it's got to be more than 2 games tomorrow. Well, let's see. Only 8 games for, yeah. So I think that's it tomorrow, Saturday. I don't know. Uh, it's gonna be hard. I don't think so. I think it's um Celeb Love went from home from UNC. Caleb, okay. Uh, I told you UConn was gonna fizzle out quick. uh, Yep. UConn fan, I see the collapse coming. They needed Johnny Broadnight to have a chance this year. Okay. Okay. I thought Iowa had a decent team. I mean, they said they only won 2 last year, so that was a big script for them to going from to win only 2 to going to win 20 games, I think they said. And I think Kansas Kansas tied Kentucky for the all-time playoff win this season. I think that's what they said because I think Kansas was what 31-6. So no, it's game Sunday. That's right. I'm sorry, it's game Sunday. So Arkansas, Duke, and Houston and Villanova play, and then we got games coming on Sunday, and then by Sunday we'll know the Final Four. So we got games tomorrow, then we got games Sunday. Yeah, that sets up everything. So yeah, this is the only thing that will save me is Duke winning it all. Anything short of Duke winning it all, I'm taking a big L. Big L. But if Duke wins it all, man, I'm gonna be macking. I am going to definitely be macking. You UNC winning versus Duke home game was scripted just for Duke to get revenge. Yeah, we've been hearing that a lot. Damn, that's fine. Yeah, I thought that too was a setup. Yeah, them not winning the tournament to me showed that they was gonna win it all. So exactly. When they lost the ACC tournament, I wasn't surprised. I even made a comment about that. I didn't think that hurt their chances of winning it all at all. Because there was years past where you had like Lynn Bias freshman year. That was a hell of a Maryland team. I think Bernard King was still on that team, and Buck Williams, Ernest or was it Ernest Graham? Ernie Graham maybe was his name because his brother went to A&T. I knew his brother, but that was a hell of a team. And they ain't go that far after winning the ACC tournament. They won the ACC tournament. Lynn Bias's freshman year in Greensboro. I still say, of all the players I personally got to watch play and played against, he was the best player hands down. And I saw Jordan play. I saw Jordan play more than I saw Lynn Bias play. I saw Jordan play a lot. I mean, in Greensboro, Chapel Hill was what, 30 miles away? Went to a bunch of Chapel Hill games. Duke games was harder to get into in Chapel Hill. Just like when Alabama beat Georgetown in SEC title game. Georgia losing put Alabama on a separate bracket to meet up in a national championship game, and Georgia got the revenge. Yeah, they do it like that a lot. Yeah. Lynn Bias and Reggie Lewis still hurt bad. Lynn Bias hurt me. I mean, I'll be honest, it hurt me. It made me investigate though, and that's why I said I came to the conclusion. I came to the conclusion, he was given something that wasn't normal. And I equated it, I still equate it to what happened to Janis Joplin. They gave her what's called a hot shot. And I'm pretty sure he still had the same thing. He got the same thing. Hey, Gray, what's happening? And Reggie Lewis, yeah, because to think of that draft would have ended up, I mean, it would have helped Larry Bird. It would have helped Kevin McHale. It would have extended both of their careers. McHale, with Lynn Bias there, McHale would have been able to let his foot heal. McHale played a season or so with a broken foot that he still limps to this day. Really nice guy. I've met him several times. Our sons played against each other in high school. Hey, Tim, how you doing? Thank you for joining. A1. They said they're going to give A1 fish scale. They said they gave him an A1 fish scale. Okay. Oh, there's Mo Ray. What's happening? You can people that do cocaine by looking at the nostrils. I've told the joke of me I was going to see Richard Pryor. What Richard Pryor movie was that? Oh, this was probably I just bought my house, so I was living in my house a couple weeks or a couple months, I forget, but new in my house. What Richard Pryor? Wasn't Which Way It Was Up. I saw that in high school. I don't know if it was Stir Crazy. It couldn't have been Stir Crazy because I saw that on Christmas. This wasn't Christmas, but it was something where it was one of the Richard Pryor movies. I don't remember. But I had snorted so much cocaine, my shit, both sides was like white. I didn't look at myself. I went to like sell like 15, 28 balls to somebody at something like 250 each. So I made a killing off it, but it was like both my nostrils was just packed cake with cocaine. And so I didn't even know it. So I walked in the mall, walked in the movie theater, and I wonder why people was looking at me because my shit is just cake white. And then I sit down in my car and I see my cousin and the dude we did business with, Frank. It was Frank, somebody I knew because I didn't realize I knew him, but I saw him in the car. I was like, that's motherfucker Frank. He's like, oh, he's wondering if you knew him or not. Yeah, I know Frank. But anyway, they didn't say shit to me. I just dealt with my cousin, but he didn't even say shit to me. And then when they pulled off and I was sitting there counting the money, I just happened to look up in the mirror and my shit is just caked with white powder. I mean, cake. I mean, it was like somebody painted my nose on both sides white. So I've told that story before, and that's a true story. Ah, but it made me look like a fiend. I take that L for that. Uh, you must have been a fucking embarrassed like a motherfucker. I felt like a damn dope fiend. Saw that shit. I've never tried it, but I would fall in love. Yeah, you if you ain't tried it, you ain't missed nothing. You know, it's people was looking at you. Oh, they was looking at me like, especially when I bought my ticket. Especially when I bought my ticket, because I was like, what the fuck is wrong with them? You know, I was like, you know, and and that's what I looked at them like. There's something wrong with them. And then I was like, I dealt with my cousin. He didn't say shit to me because he's giving me fuck. How much was that? It was like a couple thousand. Thing I can't remember. It was like maybe what is it? It's 15 or 16 eight balls at 250 a piece. That's how Frank wanted it. He wanted just eight balls. That was the price. I was glad to serve it. So it was a little bit of money. But as soon as my cousin left and I got done counting the money, I just happened to look up and I'm looking at myself and I'm like, motherfucker, look at this shit. Oh shit. Look at this nasty motherfucker. I'm like, and I called my cousin. I'm like, man, why did you say shit? He's like, I thought the shit was funny. That's what he told me. He said, I thought the shit was funny, really, man. Like, man, you could have said that. He just laughed. He said, I thought you knew. I'm like, well, you know, I ain't walking around here like that. uh, but that, that's nothing to brag about. You don't feel that powder on your face. Oh shit, my shit was probably all numb. Probably all numb because I had been, shit. I was like cutting up the eight balls and shit, and putting some cut on it and keeping the real shit for me. So, I'm just sitting there, like I said before, I used to write my name with that shit. Goby. I would do lines and just write my name. That's how sick I used to be, you know. So and Scarface put the shit out. Don't get high on your own supply. And if you have enough willpower, that's not a bad thing. Uh, people was fake. They didn't say anything. Yeah, my cousin should bust me out. 18 and 30 high. You weren't missing much. I wouldn't even say that. I'd say 10 minutes, probably 10, 15 minutes. 10, 15, like I've watched crackheads, 10, 15 minutes. Crackheads hit it, and 10, 15 minutes later, they want some more. Uh, I can't feel my face. I was all probably numbed up in here, but wasn't draining or nothing. And when I had just like came back from Miami, so it was some shit I got from Miami, so it was pretty good. Like again, I was getting Manitou. There is a stew like it's makes you go, and it's this. I think it's called Manitou, and it's actually like a chalky, and it's a stew softener. I don't even know if they make this shit, but it was like it came in like big as a soap bar. And really, the best thing about it is it would absorb right into the coke. So when you cut cut it with the coke, you couldn't tell it was in there. It just, even though itself didn't make volume, I think because when it goes in the water, it would kind of swell up. I think when you mixed it with the cocaine, it did the same thing. It tended to swell up, but you couldn't tell, so it added girth to it without taking away from the potency. Mm. Yeah, I smoke my weed. Yeah, me too. Well, I smoke wax. Adderall. Once in a while, I'll take an Adderall. Cooking cracks. That's a whole nother story. How to cook and shit. That's a whole nother story. I mean, you can cook with a spoon. Really, you can cook. You can just take a spoon. You know, they show heroin people. Making heroin with a spoon, but you can cook crack with just a big spoon. Put a little flame on it, or if you got a gas thing and you just put enough in there, and you just you just kind of stir it, and you add the powder. You ain't even gotta motherfucking, use the pot. You could put it in a spoon and just move it, put the powder in it, move it, pour some cold water on it, and boom, there you go. But like you could add, they did shit like they call blowing it up, where you could add 7 Up to it. It would uh you could add you could add you know add girth to it again. That's what it was all about, what it looked like. So, but I'm real about it. It's like if anybody said that's what was my thing. That's how I bought my first house. I mean, lucky I didn't have to spend years in jail, because I know some dudes I was dealing with was agents. Because one dude, they said they raided his house, took all his CDs, and I mean mutual fund CDs. Uh, 'Cause somebody convinced him, put all his money in the CDs back then, and not mutual funds, but it's a type of almost like a loan. CDs transactions with banks, you can almost get them like a loan. But he had put a bunch of money, 80, 90,000, and I knew he had got raided. And by then, I started being a cop. So I kind of quit doing business with him. Um, I knew he had got raided, and then the last I heard about this dude, he was so stupid. He went to Detroit, and he knew a dude he was doing business with. He gave this dude 20,000 for the dude to go in the house to get the key. And of course, the dude went out the back door with 20 grand. He's knocking on the door with his pistol, demanding some shit. But that was a sucker move on his part. He was a sucker, he was a sucker. And that was the last I heard about him. Ran into his girl when I was a cop. I was like, yeah, give your boy my card. I ain't talked to him in a while. And I ain't know what happened to him. Find out this nigga done moved to Seattle, Washington, and is again, he played college football at Michigan State, good athlete, football player more than athlete. But yeah, he was working for them people. He was working for the cops. Nah, I think about it and looked at his situation, because it was twice they got busted, nothing really happened. And so I'm lucky that he didn't turn me in. I got a funny story to tell you about when we attempt to cook it up. Oh, okay. Okay. I'll tell you a funny story. I didn't have any baking soda, and so I just mixed the powder. I didn't have any cut, so I mixed the cane with baking powder. Okay, and and this was when motherfuckers was cooking that shit up themselves. So you sell them powder, they cooking up the powder. So I didn't have any cut but baking powder. So these motherfuckers went to cook the shit, and they put it, because you can just like have a tube, like a test tube. You can put it in a test tube and put some flame on it, or put it on the fire and shake it. And so these motherfuckers put the shit in the tube, and once that fire hit it with that baking powder, it shot out the tube up to the ceiling and shit. And they was like, man, and they called me. He was like, hey, the shit shot out the tube. And I could have gangstered the ass and say, fuck him. But, I took him some more. I was like, go ahead. And I showed him how to do it without the baking powder on the shit. But I was lazy. They had no cut. So that shit shot out the tube on their ass. That shit was funny. So, good, y'all. Glad you both good. But yeah, that's probably one of my funniest stories. They called me back and said, "Yeah, the shit shot out the tube." So I was like, I really would like almost was like, what's that got to do with me? But I was like, all right, I'll get you some more. And I gave him some uncut shit and I was like, cooked it up for him. Oh, but it was funny, like when you would cook up shit for the fiend back before motherfuckers was just selling crack, it was kind of funny because just the look on their faces when you was cutting it up, or you cooking it up and shit. It's just the look on their faces. It was like it reminded me of children waiting for Christmas. I mean, that's the feeling I got because like motherfuckers be watching you and shit, and then you stir it up and they start seeing the shit rock up and shit, and it was like children with Christmas. And then when you came out, like you remember David Chappelle pulled out, the magic rock and shit. And that's almost the look on their face to be like, ding, the magic rock. And then you get to cutting it up and they get to doing their thing and shit. I had one girl, I had one girl that this chick was on TV, and I told this story years ago, but this chick was a newscaster on the local TV station. She was on the news every day. Every day in Kalamazoo, she was on the news. But the chick liked getting high. And so she would hit crack and she would start stripping, start taking her clothes off. It was like by her third or fourth hit, she was ready to fuck and butt naked. But it was the funniest shit. She would hit that shit and start taking her clothes off. It was like that shit made her want to fuck. I wonder whatever happened to her. Because crack didn't ruin her life. She ended up getting a decent job at another place. She moved up. So it wasn't like it didn't ruin her, but I wonder where she went next and what happened to her. I don't know. I lost track of her. Ah, but yeah, you just see the funniest shit. You just see the funniest shit. And I told the story where, uh, excuse my ex-wife's uncle, he was sitting against the shade and he was getting high, and then he was kind of motherfucker get paranoid and he knocked the shade down. And when I walk in the house, the motherfucker's sitting there with the goddamn shade over his head. The blinds. He had knocked the blinds because he would tended to want to back up into the window, and he had knocked the blinds on his head. And I walked in, he was sitting there with the blinds on his head. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with your uncle? She's like, oh, he's getting high and he's froze. And so I take the shade off his head and I'm like, are you okay? And he just was like, dumbfounded. He thanked me for saving him, is what he said, which was funny. How do you tell the difference between if someone is high off crack versus heroin? It's completely different vibe. They act completely different. Um, Heroin is a more it is a relaxer. It gives you the beautiful dreams. Like anybody that has taken oxy or any kind of you notice that it gives you a beautiful dream when they put you out, when they give you and give you anesthesia. It gives you beautiful dreams if you can hold on to that feeling for a long time. A heroin based drug or opium based drug will you'll start dreaming really 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 lucid. I say heroin is the one drug that will give you not just a lucid dream, almost a lucid reality. Your reality becomes lucid because and it's not like you see where motherfuckers leaning or nodding. It's not that kind of thing. Most heroin dealers or most heroin users, they shoot and are the most chill people. And as I was saying, where you looked at crack people, like I was sitting in a house and just work out the house, and people would literally come in every 20 minutes to buy more. I would look at them and say, is this all you want? Because I was seeing they have it. And they was like, yeah, I don't want to spend anymore. I'm like, cool. They give me 100. They leave. 20 to 30 minutes later, they drive back over to the spot and get some more. That is the difference right there. Heroin addicts, you're not going to see them but every 2-3 days. I mean, really, you'll see them every 2-3 days or not another week. I mean, it's just not the same kind of thing. Where crack people is constantly bothering you, constantly calling you. When I have pagers, constantly paging you. You ain't really getting no sleep. If you really want to get the money like that, you got to be out there, when they want it, you had to be out there dealing with them. So that's why I always like weed and heroin better than crack. It was just the people were bad. Yeah, blinds on his head. That shit was funny as fuck. That shit was funny as fuck. Gee, check out Zion's. Yeah, I saw that. I saw Zion. They talking about he ready. The season damn near over. They get creepy on heroin meth. They look like they just got out of the pool. Again, I ain't got a lot of experience with meth people. Um, some of my ex-wife's relatives would have the powder and shit and be like, "Well, check this out." And it's like, okay, and I, oh, what the fuck is this shit? Yeah, that shit's nasty as fuck. So I'd never seen like hard meth, like ice. Never seen ice. Never seen it rocked up. I've only seen crystal meth in the powder form. So they say the floor is made of dudes coming back from injury, but who really know? Oh, I don't know. I haven't heard anything. Definitely. Yeah, the girl is definitely different. It's more of a like even if you went over to somebody's house, like I said, my roommate used to do the shit that was from Vietnam. And a couple times, he did it in front of me. Um, and just chill. Like I said, this dude and this girl, she was a nurse. She would suck his dick while he was shooting heroin. And then after she get done, finish him off, she would shoot heroin while she ate her pussy. He ate her pussy. That's how they did it. That is how they did it. Um, uh, the floor was a fake. Okay. Most pro athletes and celebrities are on cocktail drugs and steroids and painkillers. Definitely painkillers. Definitely painkillers. B12 shots. Very common. What is the drug they sued the NFL for? I can't think of what that is, but I mean, you take players in the pain. They was talking about the bus, and I'm trying to think of the dude who used to play for the Rams, number 39. I can't think of his name, but he was telling a story how by his house he went to the ice place, or how they have the ice locked up in front of the stores. He would buy all the ice. And so when he went home, he would take a ice bath. That was the only thing that could take all that pain away, that would take all that suffering away. And so it's like North Dallas 40 the book is better than the movie. If you really want to see the inside of sports, and again, this is from the 60s and 70s, but 60s, probably more 60s perspective, but you see how much the drugs and the injuries uh kind of stack up. Yeah. Um, I told you they called the meth head man at this job. I had to laugh. Like you see women with the meth teeth. Yep. Um, the ultimate sucking on each other. Oh yeah, that's how they was. That's how they got down. He would always try to give me some, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I did hit it a couple of times, but that was just funny. Pretty lady. I mean, they was both older than me. He was like 10 years older than me, so I was probably 23, 24, and they was both probably 34, 35. She looked good. I mean, but they was both heroin addicts. And as I said, he only did heroin I saw Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's all, and he worked every day. I had been there 3 years by the time he started working there, so my job was a lot easier than his. But he worked hard. I mean, he put together. He's in them trenches every day, digging. Like what the hardest jobs is the people that had to bust the concrete, bust the street up. So you didn't know if you was busting up the street, which was easy, but when you had to bust up concrete, it's a lot harder. But busting up the street, backhoe come dig it in, dig out the hole, then they dig out to the main, and you got to go there and depending on what the job is it a sewer repair or is it a water repair? Water repair is a little easier. And if you're just putting in a new house service, you got to go tap the main water line, you got to tap the line and put the copper on there, run the copper. So one day that might be all you do all day is just tap sewer mains and run water lines to new houses. You might do that all day, or you might jump around town, or you might have to go repair. Again, like I mentioned, I've been in a manhole like 20 some feet deep. Like the shit was so deep they had to give you a goddamn rope in case you passed out or whatever in that motherfucker. But I mean, I'm looking at these motherfuckers. I ain't even barely seeing the sun. I'm barely seeing light. I am so deep in this goddamn manhole and trying to see what the fuck. I can't remember why I was in it and shit, but they talked me into going in that motherfucker. I've seen a motherfucker get buried, like where the shit collapsed on him. You know, they dig the holes and motherfuckers go down there and the shit collapsed on a dude up to his neck. You know, broke some shit on him. But it's like the motherfucker dug the hole, he jumped in it. We was about to go in, and both sides just fell in on him. And I thought it was gonna kill him, but luckily it stopped. Like about shoulder, his neck was out, but he was hurt for a long time, and he had an easy job after that. But he was hurt for a long time. Have you ever lost 50K? Have you ever lost 50K in the mall? No, D. I've never taken really any big L's like that. Like I was never been stupid to give somebody like we would go to Florida and like I'm leery. I'm a leery person as it was. So I remember the first now this is my best friend from college. We done did weed deals for years. But I remember the first time I went down there to deal with him and his people, and he knew some Jamaicans, and I still feel to this day they thought that they could get over on me. And so they was like, well, you give us the money, we'll go get it. You know, that kind of shit. And I'm like, motherfucker, I don't know you. I know him. I said, I'll go with you and we'll go in. And then the deal start changing when you bring that kind of shit up. Um, I was I was sending 10 pounds in the mall around in the mail. Oh, you said mail. Okay, in the mail. When it was unheard of and dark web from China, but I'm all set now to get much time hanging over my head. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, like a little bit of that sending the shit off, you know, freeze drying the shit and send it. I did that a few times, but it was just too much of a risk. I always felt like I did it 4 or 5 times, but yeah, I just felt back when it was 50K for one Bitcoin. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, them boys always selling dummy bricks. But yeah, so that was the thing is like they would like so it even made me leery of even my friend. And we had been friends 6, 7 years, but again, you know, when that money come out, mugs be acting different. So they saw that I wasn't up for the fuckery, so it never happened again. But that just to show you, you know, when it's that money involved, people will act different around you. They'll act really different, especially when you're talking about back then. You know, Keys in Michigan was like 25. I was going to Florida getting them at 12. But even at 12, like say I wanted two, you know, I'm paying 24. It's still dudes down there that would get you for 24. You know, they like shit. You know, you're just gonna give them money and be naive and just sit there and like twiddle your thumb. That's stupid. uh, People act a lot different when it comes to that money, and people will kill you for money. I had some dudes I said before, you know, when the shootouts I was in, it wasn't much. I had maybe a pound in the house, just selling bags. Motherfuckers come by just selling bags, so it wasn't like I was just you know really doing it. If motherfuckers tried to hit me for my pound to be successful in the drug game, you must be willing to kill. Oh, no doubt, no doubt. You can't hesitate. Uh, you must be soulless. Somewhat, somewhat. What did Biggie say in the movie? Remember what Biggie said? I'll sell to the bitch that's pregnant. I mean, you really got to have that attitude. You really do. Like I said about old dog, I'll kill everybody out there. That's kind of the attitude you got to have. That's why I was making fun last night of Scarface. That ain't really the attitude you have when you're in that business. You don't give a fuck. You really don't. You don't give a fuck if you destroying families, you destroying the neighborhood. You don't give a fuck. All you give a fuck about is making money. And that's why some people, you know, get addicted just to the money and not the drugs and not, you know, some people it's just about the money. And the money can be just as addictive as getting the drugs. Because I'll say this, it's like the money will come in like I was at one point making $1,500 a day. Every day I made no less than 1,500. And I did that for a couple years. $1,500 every day. Now, to grind that hard, you really have to be on top of it. It was days, weeks that I barely slept, driving, wondering who's telling on me, taking care of everybody. But that's what it takes. I mean, that's how I bought my first house. I bought my first house I moved into. I was 20, 27, paid cash for my first house. Gotta lay low and act broke. Stay away from the limelight. There are those Spanish dudes who Monday through Friday got millions. Okay. Money is a motherfucking, yeah, it is. Money can be a motherfucker, no doubt. Really, back then, you didn't even have to launder money. You back then, you could buy anything. You think of the $10,000 didn't come in till the 90s, like 98, 99. So up until that point, you just bought shit and nobody thought anything about it. I think the first Rolex I paid for, I talked about this before. I want to remember. I think I bought a presidential for like $8,000, and now no, this would have been, I was in the house already, so nine, and I bought it in Miami. I didn't buy it in Michigan, so it was cheaper down in Miami. It was about 8 grand, and then I want to say 89, 88, 89, like 8 grand. I bought me one and I bought my girl one. So we was young. We wasn't even 30 years old, still wearing Rolexes, where it wasn't very common, wearing fat ass, fat ass cables and shit, like the bracelets, like Rolex Presidential on one arm, the bracelets on the other arm. I mean, I looked like a dope dealer. As I told the story before, when I went into police academy, I got rings on every finger. I'm wearing still a Rolex. I'm wearing chains. And I told the story before. One of my friends that I coach high school sports with was teaching a class, and he brought a key in the class to show everybody. And I wanted to call somebody to go rob that, but he passed the key around to the whole class. It was like maybe 25 of us, and he gave everybody a chance to look at the key and shit. I was trying to poke a hole in the motherfucker. But anyway, he was describing, how they profiled. It was racial profiling is what he was describing. And he described me and everybody in the class. He didn't say me, but what he described what a dope dealer looked like, the whole class turned around and looked at me. And then Mike kind of laughed. Mike said, I've known him for and which was true. We had known each other for 4 or 5 years because he was a state cop. But again, we coached high school ball together. And so I had known him for 4 or 5 years. He's like, Brian's just flashy. That's what he said. But that was the transition I made. I went right from being a dope dealer right to being a cop. Because I always did security. Hey, Lorenzo, what's happening? Buy a bus down. Look at how the BMF fell off as they was on Smack DVD showing. I'll tell you one dude that was a guy that I dealt with. Let a couple dirt cheap and a couple high-end cars for sale. Okay. Yeah, but I mean, it just up until I think it was 88 or 90, 90, 99, 98, the $10,000 rule wasn't in effect. So back then we was driving Audi. I had a new 88, 89 Audi. I had a 500, 5,000 Audi. My girl had, I think that the smaller one was at 4,000. I don't remember, but I had a 5,000 Audi, all-wheel drive, sunroof. I think her car had the crank sunroof. My car had the electric one, but she had the crank. No, my used one had the crank. I had a used one. So, we lived the life. We lived the life for a little while. And I got broke. I got broke because going to the police academy, I wasn't getting really paid. I mean, I wasn't getting paid what I was used to making. And so, you go from making $1,500 a day and then you quit, your bills is still $1,500 worth of bills a day. So, it was tough for me because everything I saved, for I think the police academy was 3 months. So for 3 months, wasn't nothing really coming in. I wasn't hustling, so nothing was coming in other than my ex-wife working. but the lifestyle we had, it was hard at those 3 months because I was getting minimum. I was getting like what was it? 1,200 before I became an on street cop. I think every 2 weeks I was getting like 1,200 bucks or some shit like that. That was a extreme, lower down in money. So being a cop made me broke, because I went through a lot of my savings because I wasn't making the money for a long time. Thank you, thank you. I feel like family matters with them hand claps. uh, oh, I did have fun. I did have fun. Cops don't make nothing. No, I was like making 12 fucking dollars an hour being a cop when I was used to making $1,500 a day. That's why when I was a cop, again, I went in there with a brand new car. And I remember one of the sergeants was like, "Well, I can't afford a chain like that. I can't wear a Rolex like that." Because I still had all that shit. And it was like they was hating because I had my wedding ring on and it was nothing but just diamonds. My wedding ring was nothing but diamonds. And these dudes was just hating on me. I had the 2 new cars. I had 2 new cars. So I go in there with 2 new cars. Some of them dudes been working 20 years. They driving buckets. So they was hating me. I think I told the story before. One of the police that I work with drove a screw about this big in my tire. I mean, the side of it. Most time you run over shit. No, it was in the side where you could tell somebody had either screwed it in or hammered it in. And that was how, the jealousy that I worked with. And I mean, people was hating. So make you hating. Lord have mercy on high bills. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I had fun. Yeah, it was fun. I mean, like I talked about my birthday party, uh my ex threw a surprise birthday party for me, and we had upstairs what's called a carpenter's room. So it was actually a room upstairs where we made into like a little loft, a little living room, and so all the people that like smoke weed, I wouldn't smoke weed downstairs. I smoked weed upstairs, and I had the cane tray, and I had about I don't know, it was probably a half ounce, maybe almost an ounce, maybe I forget, but it was a big pile that I just passed around the room. Everybody was sitting up there, and it just kept going around the room. I don't know if people because I was up and down all around, and it's like it all disappeared. I know that but it was like, and people would like years would talk about that shit. He had so much, we was just up there, blah, 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 blah. So, you know, so it ain't nothing great, but it's just, those was kind of the situations. It was like when I didn't play pro football, I had all the connections. I knew people, still had a little bit of money, had a little bit of a game about myself. And so that was kind of the role I took. Some type of thing here. I walked for the government, had a jury connect, didn't have the job no more, but still had my change. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it took me a while. My ex always worked too. She was a teacher, so she always worked. But it was like my son was born around that time, and it was just the odd time to, and I always did security. I always did that. Always like I ended up owning security companies, but like when I went into it and I told her, I was like, this is a lot of money to turn around. And she's like, well, I'd rather see you do something. Because I was hustling and coaching high school basketball too. I guess I failed to mention that. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to lose a lot of money. And we did. And we lost a lot of money. Well, let me see. I've been out of the streets for years, but I kick out of coming up. Beeper number that's still active. Ah, that's funny. I had all kind of beepers. I went back to the old skinny beepers. I don't know if y'all remember them, the old doctor beepers. They was like they was almost this big, but just square. You imagine if this was square and it was a little bigger, and all it did is told you to call. That's really the old beepers did. It just told you to call, and you called the service, and you would hear the message on the service. That's how the first beepers was, but they was like big ass things like this, and they was like you could imagine this square. It was a big ass thing like this. And that was the first beepers until they made the smaller beepers. And then they did the two ways. And it's funny, the two ways didn't really catch on in Michigan. I mean, I had them, but I didn't really like it. I like the star pagers though. To me, that was the best because that gave you the full message, like what we get now. That was 2D. I love my star pager, especially with a cell phone where I could see who the fuck it was and what the fuck they wanted. I liked that at the time. And then of course the Motorola's came out where they had, you had the Motorola that gave you text. But before that, the star pagers, I love star pagers. I just thought that was the coolest shit that you could read what the fuck they wanted. Like, okay, if I call them back or not. I like that. Instead of just shooting a number out, the star pagers was the best. They was putting weed out in their pockets. Pay it. We was playing on them two ways. And then, everybody had the what was it called where you had the chirp and shit. That I hated that shit because motherfuckers be busting you out and shit. If you didn't have if you had the volume up, motherfuckers chirp you and just bust you out in the stores and shit. That shit was so embarrassing. You be sitting in the store, the motherfuckers say some bullshit on the chirp and shit. Hey, what you doing? I'm like, damn. So you had to always had to keep the chirp low, but it would like I think at the time it also made the motherfucking ringer low. But yeah, that shit was I ain't care for that chirp shit. I ain't like that shit. Next tail. Yeah, that chirp shit was like, man, the Sky Pager was dope. Yeah, I liked Sky Pagers. I really did. I thought the Sky Pager was better than the two-way pagers. I really did. Cause I had phones, it was phones when you had the Sky Pager, but it saved you money because Sky Pagers was cheap. They was cheap. They only cost me, what did it cost? It didn't cost that much. And it was a nice little piece of equipment, about a little bigger than a credit card. But it saved money on phones because phones was a motherfucker back then. Phones, even when I was hustling, phones was expensive. And so, that took the expense off. It's like I ain't got to call this motherfucker back. He just told me. So that I love that. Again, they went out of business. The Sky Pages went out of business. Then they offered the two-way pages, and that just never really caught on in Michigan. Um, them first prepaid flips was like 50 cents a minute. I never had one of them, the prepaid, but the regular phones was monsters. It wasn't until my boy Nuke we started getting the clone phones. That phones was cheap. I love them sidekicks. I had the sidekick that taught that made fall in love with texting. Yeah, yeah, I understand that too. Uh, yeah, had all that. I remember shit. I was one of the first in the city to have the phone with the camera in it because I had bum rushed 3 or 4. It came in well, it was Radio Shack. Radio Shack had I don't know if it was Motorola, but it was the first to get the camera in the phone. And them was going so hot, and I knew somebody worked in Radio Shack, and I was like one of the first in the area to have a camera phone. And I had so many pictures that I saved throughout the year. And I let my knucklehead, the big boy that pops his head in here when he was little, and I told him, do not break this phone. Because there's pictures of them when they was in the babies. And so I was like, I could have downloaded them, saved them. And I'm like, do not break this phone. Because it was like a turkey bowling game they like playing. And this little motherfucker snapped my phone in two. I was heartbroken. Oh, all those pictures lost. That clown behind you, creepy as fuck. It is definitely a talent. I had that one told you the weather, news, and scores as well. Yeah, I mean, I've had all kind of phones and shit. The brick phones, I love the brick phones. They really were good phones. Um, as they changed from the other phones, I thought the other phones weren't as good. But the bricks were reliable. Yeah, the bricks were really reliable, and they fooled people into taking the smaller phones, but the bricks was more reliable than the smaller phones at first. And I thought the bricks was even more reliable than the car phones. I mean, because all it was you just hook it into your car and you had the antenna. Like my Lincoln had an antenna on it, and you just hook the phone to the antenna. I thought the bricks was even more reliable than that. I didn't think even that was reliable. I was dropping calls on that. So But yeah, I watched it all. I watched it all change through the years, and I ain't bragging, it's like that was I live up to it. That was my mission. Uh, the brick would still work if they didn't shut them down. Yeah, the bricks was reliable. I mean, very reliable. When they talked me into off the brick to the newest thing, it wasn't as reliable. Drop calls more often, and like you said, they shut them bricks down. And it was only a few years that those was around. But the other phones, because if you watch old shows, you always had to pull the antenna. Well, the brick had the antenna out already. If you remember how they was designed, but it was like you took the call, and if you flipped up or just it's two different. Like we had the Motorola, it was kind of the early clamshells with the old Motorola. But you always had to flip the antenna up and shit, and hope the call don't drop because that was always money. But what made it affordable, in Michigan, we did the clone phone, and the clone phone was like it revolutionized having a phone. Really, it really did. It made it so much more because we were spending $75 for every 3 months. Now you couldn't call out, but again, we still had the pager. Still had the Sky pager. I want to think I still had the Sky pager. Well, no, the Sky pager was shut down by then, but we still had the other pagers by then. We still had the regular little, um, the little first pagers, or maybe even the two ways. I'm trying to think when the clone phones came out. 93, 94. Yeah, so I think pagers were still around. Yeah, I might have still had my Sky pager by then. But the clone phones changed things completely. I mean, it really did. That's the reason why phones got cheaper because they couldn't compete with clone phones. The phones, like I said before, with Master P with the chip, they couldn't compete because clone phones mean 75. That was shit. And it was like my man Nuke that sold the clone phones. You would have thought that he was selling dope. There was so many cars around his house. There's people coming out with phones. Uh, that and the next phone, bruh, to the new one, new stuff popped up. Yep. We used to beat them payphones. we used to beat the payphones. We used 3 payphones. Well, I told the story. The payphone that I used was at what do you call it? The root beer stand. It's a national brand. What is the root beer stand called? Damn, it's a name for him. But in Kalamazoo, in Western Michigan, I stayed at the root beer stand. As long as I bought food, they didn't give a fuck. And back then, payphones would ring. And so I lived in Battle Creek, but I would just hang at the root beer stand all day. As long as I paid, I tipped good. They never hassled me. When the phone rang, I knew it was for me. It was like nobody else's. So yeah, they was slow to catch up on that. That you could call payphones. They was real slow to shut that down. A&W root beer stand. That's what it was called. The A&W on West Niche in Kalamazoo, because it's one on Michigan Avenue. The oldest one of the oldest ones in the country is on Michigan. But there was one, and I think it's still there. And that was my payphone, was that one. But yeah, I used the payphone too. I used the payphone too. Yep. We would go to Radio Shack and buy a phone and made sure to get insurance, wait 3 days, call in like we lost it, be in the phone, back up, made it, Radio Shack, our money back, and a free phone in the mail. Oh, that was a good hustle. That was a good hustle. Big ups. Hey, Belly Skull, what's happening? Okay, well, have a good evening. Definitely have a good evening. I'll be on tomorrow night. Uh, Brother Jay. Bring Brother Jay, what's happening? Hard hitting. What's happening? Straight facts. We ran it up. Hey, woke sister, how you doing? But I don't try to run away from that. I'm not no perfect person. That's just my story. Have you heard of Cassopolis? Yeah, I lived in Cassopolis. That's where my stepfather's from. My stepfather's from Cassopolis. Like really, if you looked at what happened is when the Indian tribes from the East Coast, which is the black folks, but what we did is the Ampey family stopped in because we were part of the Catawba clan, but we came to when we left Virginia, well, North Carolina, Virginia border, like we went into Indianapolis, Indiana first, and then got ran out by them Mennonites, and some of them what they call poor white trash, and we end up going to Michigan. Well, we went into Michigan, we went into what's called Cass County, and Cass County is like Cassopolis, DeWaljack, Vandalia, trying to think all, but like in that area, that is where most of the melanated people saw that they cannot be bothered in Michigan. And so, yes, you did have the melanated people that went up through Toledo and went to Detroit, because that's how a lot of them went. They went up through Toledo and went to Detroit on that trip, whereas we went in right into Southwest Michigan. And so my stepfather and my father were actually best friends, and my stepfather was from Cassopolis. I still have family down there today. I was a cop in Cassopolis for a while too. But yeah, definitely know about Cassopolis. Yep, definitely know about Cassopolis, Michigan. And welcome, BH. Yep. Yeah, my brother's last name is Johnson, my stepfather. My great grandparents lived there. Oh, what's their name? Shoot me their name to see if it's one of the family names. Because it's Bass, Ash, um, Grady's, Johnson's, trying to think, Elliott's, Let's. Now, Let's end up going to Battle Creek, but yeah, it's a lot of names that you see that was related to the tribe. I'm from Ann Arbor, and folks in Kalamazoo, Michigan. My mom grew up in Idlewild. Yeah, I was talking about Idlewild yesterday or the day before. Yep, I was talking about that the day before because uh, my brother, I talked about that. That was the first time I saw a melanated cowboy. Was up in Idlewild, and my parents forced my brother, who's screaming and hollering. He was like 4, maybe 5, but I think 4. And they were not satisfied till they put his ass on a pony and took a picture of it. And in the picture, he's screaming and hollering. And yeah, that's what they did. My last name is Harris. Oh, okay. I do know some Harrises. Bernard was a Harris. Billy is up in, but they're not from. Well, I don't know where Bernard is from, but Bernard is a Harris, and then Billy Harris lives up in Grand Rapids. But yeah, I know a few. Okay. Hey, so thank you for joining. But yeah, well, sister, that was the first time I saw a melanated cowboy was in Ottawa. Yeah, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. My daughter interviewed my mom and had a great story about the resort. Yeah, we went there again. My family down in Paw Paw, and that's where my mother grew up. We had Eagle Lake, and so my great aunt had a cottage. My great grandmother's sister had a cottage, and my great aunt lived to be 99. But my great grandmother's sister lived on Eagle Lake, so we would go there a lot. But at other times we would shoot, to go to Ottawa. But we did that almost every summer, so it was very common to spend the day down there. We wouldn't really would spend the night, but we would always go down there and spend the day, eat and stuff. But yeah, yeah, yep, that was definitely part of. What do you think? What do you think the next Project Bluebeam? What do you think is next? Um, I don't know. I mean, they've been trying to prepare people for years for the aliens when really it's the government that's the aliens. Now, I'm not saying there are a lot of different beings that have been on Earth. And a lot of these beings they want to tell you they're aliens, but they've been here longer than people been here. So are they really the aliens or we the aliens? We hung out in the we hung out in Baldwin too. Okay, okay. Yeah, I've been to Baldwin. I know where that area is. I mean, all around Michigan. I mean, it was spots that just melanated people went. That's kind of like I was saying. Eagle Lake one time had a little club on it, and that's just was for. And as we was talking about Cassopolis, DeWaljack, Southwest Michigan, all the like my mother's family came into Southwest Michigan in 1850s. Now my father and my stepfather's family came in the 1950s, but all the melanated people helped each other. They helped each other. You know. Lay low. And so, that was a common thing that the families all in the area was close. At one point, my stepfather and my father was best friends because again, they kind of grew up with each other because that's just what, when you did things with melanated people. I don't know if people understand that. That's kind of when it was a group thing, it was all melanated people doing their thing. It was still segregation, a little bit of Jim Crow even in the North. Yeah. Trying to break down the matrix in a 9 to 5 slave job. Yeah. That is a lot to consider. And so a little bit of Southwest Michigan history. And of course, in 1925 or 30, when Ford started paying $5 a day, $25 a week, he didn't care. He didn't care who worked there. And so that's like Dan Calloway. He don't really get into that part. How the auto industry also took people off the farm because people looked at it as not having to work as hard, not having to rely on the crops, not having to rely on the weather, not having to rely on the harassment. And so that's why a lot of people gave up their farmland because the North was paying decent jobs. And what people don't understand is what Motown turned into. Motown turned into this. The same as we saw in PJ's area, we saw in Dayton, we saw in uh, Dayton because of what's it called? GM. I can't think of the Deco because of GM Deco and families being middle class, being able to finish their basements, and families being able to pay lessons. So we saw the funk era. Well, you see the same thing in Motown. You look at Diana Ross went to Detroit Cast Tech. So these are all middle class people that created Motown. These is all parents, like with the Funk Brothers. You got parents that can again afford lessons and afford the instruments. So we saw twice where this the middle class working melanated people were able to create these positions. Yes, it was in the entertainment, same as sports, but yet it came out of culture. It came out of culture because we were very always musical people, always entertaining, and that was just part of the culture. I mean, how many times you just been around cousins and stuff and you just get to singing and dancing? It was kind of natural. Yeah, Deco. Yeah, Deco. And Deco was the GM. But it was like Cincinnati. It was Cincinnati, all that little area where you got all these groups that came out of later. And this is 10 years after Motown. Because really Motown started with Tamelia. Gwen Gordy started Tamelia, I think it was called. Tamil. TAMI, I think is how the records was. And that wasn't Motown. That was before Motown. And then later Motown came in. But I think Gwen Gordy ended up marrying Marvin Gaye. That was just a way to control him and steal money from him because he was young. But yeah, so you see where this created the melanated middle working class, which really, when you see Vietnam, I told the stories before. Dude would quit one job or get fired and go across the street and work another job. I mean, it was really that many jobs. I mean, this is not embellishing. This is kind of how it was. Like, oh, Nicole, what's happening? I didn't see Nicole come in here. Welcome. I mean, this is how it used to be. And I wrote a book called the person that wrote the book 1983. We see a lot of it coming, but he wrote another book called 1985, and he was really the first until I started investigating how Reagan was going to end up destroying the melanated middle class by really taking away the unions and then allowing Detroit to, like I said with Kellogg, allowing them to go to these cities, these states that wasn't union. And but I'm kind of forgetting my point. But you really had during the Vietnam War a great prosperity for melanated people. And there was a melanated working class. I mean, it really was. I mean, everybody wasn't really poor, least around my area of Michigan. And I know I went to Detroit. I would go to Chicago, but it was like for the most part, like even Gary, Indiana. You may go through Gary and see how it is now, but Gary was a very beautiful city. And the saddest city of all of them is Flint. Flint was a beautiful, large city. I think at one time Flint was the second biggest city besides Detroit. Beautiful big city. Again, had that big plant. River Rouge was another. They was a basketball powerhouse from probably for like 10 years. But at one time, the Rouge plant was one of the biggest plants in the world. And all this was allowed to be taken away. Well, you say that in the 70s came in, that's when the plant shut down throughout the Midwest and the migration down south started. I would say, hey, Siova, thank you for joining. Lorenzo, I would say, as I said before, starting to study it, and I caught a study when they started, the car companies knew in the 50s that their profits, to hit certain profits, they was really going to have to cut out the union. That was the main thing they wanted to do, was get rid of the union. Kellogg's, Post, they all was in with that. But they knew in the 50s. And so what you see and I told my story before, when I was senior in high school, let me get this right. Yeah, when I was a senior in high school that summer, my best friend worked at General Motors. He was making about $20 an hour as an intern. So coming after my freshman year, I'm just knowing I'm going to work at General Motors, Fisher Body Plant, where my stepdad worked. And I figured that I was going to be able to, make $20 an hour, buy me a car, go back to college. Well, they eliminated that. That's when you saw the start. And by like my stepfather had to leave because they shut down the Fisher Body plant in 85, 86. So around then is when you started seeing from like really 80 to 84, 85, you started seeing the unions being busted up and you started seeing the plant closures. And, the steel business taken out of Gary. And Gary used to be a beautiful city. I know for a lot of people, they only looked at Gary as original gangsters. But again, my uncle's brother lived there, and we went there since I was little. I knew where the Jacksons lived before they was big. I mean, yes, they was doing concerts and shit, but we knew they lived. My cousin, my uncle's brother lived near that area. So, Gary was a beautiful area at one time. It really was. Outside of Chicago, all working, majority of people working at the steel plant. And so it was one time a beautiful city. But we see they took the steel plant out of Pittsburgh. They took the steel plant out of Gary, and now we get steel from other countries. Uh, hey, Big Pontiac Peace, what are your thoughts on all these upsets? um, wow. The St. Peter's one blows my mind. That killed me. I would have made a lot more money if Purdue would have made it. I showed 2 or 3 videos that showed Purdue point shaving. That number 23, and I think number 23 is the one whose mama uh, um, coaches Notre Dame. You notice he had 3 turnovers I counted, and he shot the last shot. Very fishy, very fishy, very fishy. That kills a lot of money because a lot of money was on Purdue. The most of the money was on Purdue, and so they're building up that coach. Because think about it, after this, that coach ain't, I mean, he's going to get other offers to go to bigger schools. I mean, it's hard for that school to compete. But if you look at the way the flow of the game, and I'll get back to Ivy, whose mother is the coach at Notre Dame. And Lobo said it. Lobo did a video about it. He's an MK Ultra athlete. And you saw him make them turnovers. He had like 25 points in the previous game. I bet he didn't score double figures. And all those ones I showed you of him turning the ball over, he clearly turned the ball over on purpose. So we see that. We see that. Now Gonzaga, I'm happy because that makes it easier for Duke. Did I see Arkansas beating them? Not really. once the game flow went on, I wasn't surprised. Arizona, I thought very fishy the way the game was called. I thought that was very fishy. That number 0 had 30 something last game. What he scored less than 10. So they're pushing Houston. Houston's been in the finals several times before. Um, but yeah, pushing St. Pete just I don't get it. But again, it makes it easier for Duke because I don't think St. Pete gonna beat North Carolina. Um, but seeing Iowa go down to a weak school like Richmond made no sense. They won the Big Ten. They had one of the strongest teams in the nation. That made no sense. So yeah, it's like, and technically North Carolina winning was upset because UCLA was ranked higher, but that didn't surprise anybody. But Purdue surprised me a lot. Purdue surprised me a lot. Again, Miami beating Auburn. I mean that made no sense. So yeah, it's just, I mean, you see how it's all scripted, and I think it's all scripted for Duke to win, which means I will win. So let's say Pete knock off Carolina and let Duke have to play St. Pete. Yeah, let's see what happens there. But I think they're not gonna win. I can. Gary was a beautiful city. One of my ex girlfriends used to live in Gary. She told me there was some areas in that city where we wouldn't know because it was so beautiful. Yeah. I mean, Gary used to be a very beautiful city in the early '60s. It really was. We went down there several times. Like my uncle's best friend lived in the city, and so I've told the stories before. How I used to go to at the old Chicago Stadium, go to all the black expos. My uncle's best friend was a big dude named oh gosh, it'll come to me so long ago. I'll know his name. Tiny. This was a big old dude that could whoop ass, carried a big 44 Magnum with him everywhere. I told how he drove a Fleetwood. Now, if y'all remember the old Fleetwood, Fleetwood had jump seats in them. Like you would look down under the front seat and you would see what would look like a step stool thing, but that was the jump seat. You'd pull it up and it was the seat. And he was so big. And Tiny wasn't that tall. He was about 5'6", 5'7". He's probably 350. But got to hang with him. You know, he would stare with his belly. He would turn with his belly. He was just like, it just scared the shit out of me. But yeah, we used to be all in those areas. I mean, you know, we just used to be all in that area. Chicago was beautiful back when I was younger. But yeah, all in those areas. Gary, Chicago, all the time. I spent more time in Chicago, Gary, than I did Detroit because I really didn't have a whole lot of family in Detroit. We had more family because my father, again, there's a lot of Macons that live in Chicago to this day. So my father's family too. Um, so, and then my stepfather even had uncles and cousins still living in Chicago. So we went to Chicago a lot when I was younger. Matter of fact, my stepfather's sister at one point lived down there. So that's where I met Fred Hampton. And I was young. I've told this before. I don't even think, you know, I've told this before. I don't think he was a Panther. I think he was still in the NAACP. I think the program was under the NAACP. I could be wrong. I was so young. Um, but I got to meet him when my cousin, because my cousin, she had to wear braces, and she was graduating from daycare into kindergarten. They had the little reception, and I got to meet him when I was a little boy. Um, as long as Big Pontiac win, that no doubt. I'm telling you, if Duke win it all, I'm really gonna be in the good. Matter of fact, Duke win tomorrow, I'm gonna be good. They win tomorrow. It's gonna be pretty good. She also told me West Lafayette, Indiana, home of Purdue is beautiful. Yeah, I've been down there too. I've been down there too. Kokomo. That's like going down to go down to Kokomo. Yeah. My old Sully was from Gary, and he said, "Bro, you think Hartford, Connecticut bad?" Yeah, Gary's bad now. Gary's bad. They took all them jobs, and that was like what everybody did down there. Work for the, one of the foundries, work in the steel factory, foundry or steel factory, which foundry is the steel factory. So, and you didn't see them. I'll say the only town they did like that for Europeans was Pittsburgh. They did take a lot of the steel manufacturing out of Pittsburgh, but that was it. If you looked at how, because the middle class, the European middle class, I don't think they, not to say a lot of them didn't work for the auto industry because they did, but what you have to understand with the auto industry and not having monopoly, there's a lot of supplier industries. And so there's tons and tons of supplier industries. And so as the big plants left Detroit, all those suppliers went to other cities too, because all those supplier industries in most of the part were unions at one point. And now what Battle Creek did, Battle Creek ended up bringing Japanese supplier companies in. But if we just stay with what happened to our people, again, it affected us because again, if you didn't work in the main plant, you could still work at a supplier part place. And so you still had a pretty good job. Nicole B says, yeah, my brother says Duke would take it all, so Coach K would go out. Again, I think the main thing when you look at Duke is look at John Wooden in 74. And they showed John Wooden tonight and talked about his last year coaching. So that's I still think that's how it's going to play out. Exactly what happened to John Wooden. But yeah, let's go Duke. Yeah, and I hate Duke. I hate Duke. They cheat so much when you'd be at that small stadium. Like Duke, I'm telling y'all, if I don't know if a lot of people go to college games, but college stadiums ain't that much bigger. Like if you went to a big high school, your high school stadium is pretty comparative to the college. College stadiums ain't that big, not basketball. Football stadiums, yeah, but not basketball. Basketball stadiums, like A&T Stadium before they changed it, and it was new, fairly new. It was only a year or two before I got there. Less than 3 years it was built. And I think at the time it held like 8 to 10,000 people. I think now it can hold about 15. Western Michigan, where I grew up, it held about 13,000. So they're not tremendously big. Most pro stadiums hold about the Target Center packed about 21,000 people. So basketball arenas ain't really big, giant venues compared to football. And so college venues aren't very big. I mean, that's I guess the point. I forget the point I was gonna make, but college venues ain't very big. It said it's good at one point. Yeah. I hate Duke to the core. UNC is my squad. Okay, Nicole. Yeah, I hate Duke too, but when I'm looking at the script, I got to bet with the script. Oh, oh, let me tell you, I think I tore my meniscus that I had surgery on my left knee. I'm pretty sure I tore it. So I guess if I do have to have surgery, because I'm pretty sure it's tore, it's getting worse and worse every day. I lunged playing pickleball on my left knee, and where I had surgery on the meniscus is like I'm having trouble bending over. So kind of a bummer. Kind of a bummer. So might have another little setback for my pickleball dominance, but I'm gonna go ahead and get it looked at. Probably gonna have to have an MRI. I doubt they're gonna be able to tell on an X-ray. So probably gonna have another damn MRI. I've had shit, man. Trying to think. I bet I've had 20 MRIs. I bet at least 20. Uh, Cameron Indoor Stadium is bigger. High school. Oh, it's not big at all. It's I've been up in there. That ain't. And he purposely didn't want it big. He purposely didn't want it big. That place is super super small. It's like compared to what Carolina play in, it is night and day. Night and day. That especially the new place they play in. Damn, I tore my meniscus before. Worst pain I ever felt. Yeah, I've tore both meniscus and both knees. I've had them both repaired, and I'm gonna have to get this one repaired again. I think. I mean, maybe not, but it's getting worse. And normally, when you tear it, and tear is a burn. I don't know if people know it. When you tear something, you tend to feel a burn, and it's like when I bend, I'm feeling it. So, gonna have to make another appointment. And like they want to, I was supposed to get the camera up the ass thing, but they talking about they gotta swab me up the nose, and I'm like, I'm not having it. So I'm a postpone that. I'm gonna wait for they quit needing you to do all that shit. So, and I'll see. I'm doing therapy. I got some medicine. I got liquid acid. I got to bring this tube and show it again. This shit is Advil, but in a liquid form that you can put on. And it had my knee feeling good for a minute. So yeah, I might have to get it repaired. We'll see. But I'm not getting swabbed up the nose. I'll go somewhere I can spit in some shit. That's why it's funny seeing the people wearing masks. It's like, where do you got to wear masks? Like I'm looking at my ex-wife on Facebook in Michigan, and she is in the school wearing a mask. My daughter's been about, like I said this afternoon, my daughter is about 3 weeks. About 3 weeks. This is the third full week they ain't wearing masks. So that's a bummer. Yeah, I know. I mean, we're not playing this week because like today, as I talked about earlier, today, the wind was way too windy. We just it's been cold ever since I played Sunday. It's been cold every day. Since last Sunday I last played, it's been cold every day. So really no playing this week at all, which is good. I get to rest. I do get to rest. And and it's gonna be like that all week. We're gonna get snow later in the week. So um same here. Meniscus ain't no joke. Yeah, I've had both. I've had my right knee, my meniscus on my right knee first. I got that done at 88. Um, I've never been tested. Yeah, I haven't been tested either. So that's why they're not going to get in my bunghole. Ain't that what was the little cartoons on MTV? Not going to get my bunghole. Uh, I don't understand why Tommy Davidson reveals in Vlad that he was molested by many men as a child. Yeah, that's crazy. But see, these people be irrelevant. And so, like, what number one, why is he still going on Vlad? Like, look at anybody going to Vlad still as being irrelevant because he's been busted out. He's a Jewish faith person. He is an agent of the government, and he got these fools locked up because they stupid and don't know better. I mean, a lot of these dudes, and if you look at his interviews from a few years ago, you see he's lawyer trained to give interviews. What do they call it? Leading questions. You remember seeing him doing leading questions? So that's an agent for you. That's an agent for you. You can recover faster from torn meniscus than ligament damage, but the pain from tearing is sucks. Yeah, I know, I know, I know. I agree. I could. Super agent, no doubt. Thomas Davidson is hilarious, but exactly why on Vlad? Exactly. Yeah, Vlad is definitely a fan. Look at his whole career. He's definitely a fan. I mean, as I said, he's been lawyer trained because the way he asked the leading questions, that's training. That ain't no dude that was just a DJ. I mean, you could just listen to his old videos and the leading questions to get and the questions would always be that people incriminate themselves. So yeah, just check him out. Listen to him. That's why. What was the dude's name? Delight. Somebody put it here. Delight knew who I was on my last channel, and I'm laughing. I'm like, okay, that's a weirdo that admitted that he gave somebody head. So yeah, I don't think he was deep. And he was like, well, just because you gave somebody head don't mean you're gay. I'm like, okay. He got to be just for the people on there. Exactly. Always. Well, thank you. But I mean, again, who put him as the one that showing you got a little bit of success? That was another lead up to him. Who put him? Why was it that you felt when you first made it, you had to go see him? Like now, they go to the Breakfast Club, but at one point it was like you go to Vlad, you go to the Breakfast Club, or you go to Breakfast Club, then you go to Vlad. That's kind of how they push these entertainers. Why Vlad though? Why Vlad? Why Vlad? He on YouTube here. And again, he wasn't sharing that bread with anybody, but definitely agent. Definitely agent. Vlad's an agent. That even rhymes. Tank said that. Fruity ass shit. Yeah. But so did Delight. He said that fruity ass shit too. And again, if that's your thing, that's your thing. You know. I didn't bring any water over here. And my seat is getting to me. What is hour? Okay, I'll go a little longer. I didn't wake up. I didn't wake up till noon today. And then my daughter's with me. And my daughter's like, yeah, you better leave food out for me so I can make it through because I know you don't get up. I'm like, you're right. uh, I don't trust a man that don't show his face. Well, it's a lot of mugs on YouTube that don't like showing their face. Yeah, that's very shaky. You know, you having a seminar and all the people is, it's you seeing their memes. You're not seeing them. So yeah. I mean, what did the dramatics say? What you see is what you get, is what you get. I said, what you see is what you get now, babe, is what you get. Do 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 do. That's one of my favorite songs, of course. That's probably my favorite groups amongst all the groups is probably Dramatics, even above the Temptations. Even above the Temptations. But that's a lot of cats, a lot of cats. It's kind of the era of the mystery man has kind of disappeared. You kind of got to show who you are. So, oh, that's my favorite song. I've told the story before. I bought the Wastack album to get the Richard Pryor skits, and that song just happened to be on it. And so I played the whole song. I mean, it's a lot of records, but that was probably out of that whole album, other than Richard Pryor skits, that's a song I still play today. And there's some Isaac Hayes songs on it. Last time I think, or When I Get to Memphis, some shit like that. But yeah, that the Dramatics is my all-time favorite group. They could go to Doggy Diamond, but he's still with them people too. Let me say, and I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this. Like right now, Turtle Gang is fucking with Tasha Z. And I don't know if y'all know who either one is. Turtle Gang gave me the Time Walking Papers, and I'm forever indebted by him. But like today, he was talking about some shit where trying to say Homo sapiens just came from Africa, and again using Western science, which we know you can't believe they Western science. Again, don't believe in anything, but fucking definitely you can't believe in their science. And so these motherfuckers say they dug up some bones and they did some carbon dating. That shit ain't believable. It's not believable. Not believable. You can't even fathom the shit. And so him arguing that and arguing with people. And I remember Tasha had said some shit about him years ago. And again, Tasha, when I had the beef with Phoenix, or the Phoenix had the beef with me, really, Sister Phoenix, Tasha was kind of in her crew because they was going around doing little lectures and shit. But me and her never had a problem. Then I see him fucking with her. And as I said last night, she responded and said, well, there ain't no good side. I just want these motherfuckers to leave me alone. But Tasha put out a lot of good information. And I'm gonna say this about a lot of them New York cats. Now, Turtle Gang ain't really with that little group. He kind of been on the fringe, but the way he's fucking with her is very New York looking, like they want to, how they always cause drama and shit. And so I'm not gonna really say anything bad about him, but I just gave you an example, and it's like I'm seeing a little crack in his armor. Now, I understand why Tasha went with Sister Phoenix. I see a lot of hustling Sister Phoenix. I've seen a lot of hustling her. I'm surprised Tasha kind of hooked her wagon with her, but I think Tasha learned somewhat. And again, Sister Phoenix had a lot of shine on her, so I understand business is business. But like what her and Turtle Gang going through ain't really business, and so it's something personal there. And he is not like Tasha for a long time. He hasn't liked her for a long time. And so I'm staying neutral. Tasha's a sweetheart. I understand. I'm trying to stay neutral. I don't have anything bad to say about Turtle Gang. He ain't really said any bad thing about me. I don't understand the attack on her, and that's between them. That's between them. I see a piece you did about Flo from the insurance commercial. Yeah, I don't know if people peep that out, what you seeing in that Flo commercial. Again, Lobo did an excellent thing showing the MK Ultra people, but that's a color we see when you see them with the print, just like I did the Adele from the NBA All-Star game. You see Adele wearing that shit. I showed a year or so ago when you see Lisa Saunders. There's a lot of goddamn movement in my hallway. Okay, went away. And what that print really means, Molly Carum. I remember when Taylor that works on Fox. Her brother played for the Dolphins. That chick that goes with the ex coach Ben Watson. Watson. I don't think Ben is his name, but that chick that's on Fox with Colin. They all wear this stuff, and what this really means is that you have went in them rooms, that you have been compromised sexually, that you have done what it takes for a woman to do to be compromised sexually. So you become a kitten. I know some people call it MK Ultra sex kitten, but that's what it means. And so when you see that print, that's what that print means is that, I mean, this chick been flow for 10 years, at least 10 years. And so what it means is she was showing her whole side. That Flo ain't as innocent as you think. And these commercials, these businesses, a lot of bumping. I got something that bumps loud, but it means that sexually they've been compromised and that they have given themselves to the business of the beast. So yeah, they even put the baby in the print. That's right. And whose parents would allow that? Yep. Whose parents would allow that? It's a cat in Atlanta named B High. He does good interviews. He's mostly interviews rappers, but from the South that are unsung, great rappers. You know what I'm saying? Okay, okay. Yeah, I haven't heard of him. Oh, whew. Ah, okay, going a little longer. So that's what it means. So when you see it, it's no accident it's there. And I think you can look up one of Lobo's. You can even look up one of my older videos talking about it. I don't know if Lisa Saunders one is on this channel. I know it was. I know I did several on my older channel, so of course that might be gone. Um, yeah. So yeah. Hey Keith, what's happening? He works for 107 here in Atlanta. Hey Keith, what's happening? Okay, he works for 107. That's cool. That's cool. I used to call in too. We got a couple stations here, and I used to call in like every Thursday. They let you do a little short spot, and of course you can buy time on the radio. And I know several of the DJs, I know that's on the local radio, but don't know if that's for me or not. I'd be more interested in trying to buy that motherfucker than just trying to get a couple, spot on there hours. So I'd be trying to buy that motherfucker and try to expand it. That's what has always interested me. I've always followed the numbers on what it's worth. I'll say that. But I follow all the other numbers, the numbers of advertisements. I always follow the numbers, but that's what I would be interested in buying that station. 89.9. We got two stations. They took the third one down. And then 105.2 is the other one. What do I think about Dick Gregory? Malcolm X said it. Malcolm X, like even though Malcolm X was an agent, Malcolm X told you so was this Dick Gregory. He tells you, he's like, why are they going to comedians? It's like Bobby Kennedy wanted to know what was going on in the neighborhood, and Bobby Kennedy brought up James Baldwin. Now, James Baldwin wasn't no hood dude. He was the gay dude that, was intellectual. So he could tell you some Jim Crow, but he couldn't tell you as Malcolm X made up the grassroots. So, Bobby Kennedy was like, this motherfucker ain't helping me at all. We need to get in touch with the grassroots people. So Dick Gregory was the agent from when he was a young man. He was compromised as a very young man. He wanted to be famous. You saw him at the Playboy party. You can see an interview of him when he's younger in Playboy. You can look that up. So he's acting like in his older age to get attention again. He was doing all that shit to get attention. Remember, what was the name of Kid and Play's movie? Remember they do say, "Give me some of that Dick Gregory." Remember he was selling that shit. Remember he was selling that hair stuff that you supposedly could eat. Remember? Do y'all remember that commercials of Dick Gregory was selling the Dick Gregory drink, but he was selling some Dick Gregory hair shit too, where they were saying it was all natural, you could eat it, and turned out that shit, if you ate that shit, it'd make you sick as fuck. But he was selling that juice. Remember the Dick Gregory remember a House Party? Y'all remember House Party? And the big old dude who later got busted at the bus stop with all that weed. Like, give me some of that Dick Gregory. So Dick Gregory was an agent too. And this is what you got to understand is like most of the spokesmen is agents. I mean, you can't look at it any other way. Look at the people now. What all them people come here for? Why Ben Crump is everywhere? They made Ben Crump. They made Ben Crump a spokesman through the Martin stuff. I mean, so you see, they send agents. They send agents. These something happens. They send the agents in. Sharpton, Crump, they all agents. I mean, the Floyd shit, and they couldn't even let Jesse Jackson is gone. He's got Alzheimer's, and yet he's at the George Floyd shit. I mean, that is how bad they need all these agents together. And so what you have is all these agents that's supposed to be speaking for the people. And there's none that really speak for the people. They speaking for themselves. They work for the people, or I'll say they work for them peoples. So I mean, it's not like you can't get a little bit from me, but like use your discernment, thinking that this is the agent telling shit that happened long ago. But one thing he said, I'll say this for Dick Gregory, and I don't think people even would make this popular, but Dick Gregory said these motherfuckers in America is worse than them Nazis. He said the shit they do in America would make the Nazis blush. That is one thing he said over and over again. He's like, these motherfuckers in America is way more ruthless than even the Nazis. That is probably the most important thing I ever heard him say. That these motherfuckers is worse than the Nazis. And I tend to agree. Yep. House party. Yep. House party. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Nicole B. You know, I was old man. And uh, uh, when it comes up to experiencing sports rigging, the 2-1 I fuck with the most is you and Lobo. I'm not going to say no names, but the Gematria guy tries to predict games just off Gematria instead of knowing. Yeah, I mean, he ain't a real sports dude. And he thinks that just the numbers is going to tell you the answers to these games. He doesn't look into any other history. When he looks up history of sports, he looks at the past numbers. He don't look at the individuals. Like he ain't said shit about John Wooden and the connection with Krzyzewski. I mean, it is the same scenario over again. Again, me following sports, I know that. Now, maybe him hearing this shit or one of his flunkies hearing this shit, they'll tell him, but he ain't put that together. The same thing they made John Wooden win in 74. We're going to see. I would be totally surprised if Duke doesn't win it. I really would, because I'm pretty sure they're going to give him the same treatment that they gave John Wooden. Just as college basketball needed John Wooden then, they need Krzyzewski to win it all. Now, I could be wrong. I don't think the North Carolina coach, Dean Smith, again, he was the lovable loser. He only won 2 titles. Krzyzewski won a bunch of them, which would be more in comparison, more in line with Adolph Rump and John Wooden. So dang, I was just hoping Malcolm X was the only one. He wasn't. Yeah, you look at his history. They tell on each other. Number one, you got an FBI agent writing a book. Alex Haley was a plagiarizing FBI agent, and he wrote the book. So, and not to say that you can't find beautiful things in Malcolm. There was some beautiful things with Malcolm, but he worked for a nonprofit. Elijah Muhammad was nonprofit. Bohemian Diet. Yeah, Bohemian Diet. There you go, PJ. I couldn't even think of that shit. But they did a hair product too that people like the hair product. They do the commercial and they're like, look, This is so natural, you can eat it. And they show him eating this shit, of course. And people was like, well, they say you can eat it. And people was getting sick off eating that hair product. D.L. Hewley is modern day Dick Gregory, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt. And this is what's so fucked up that I've always said about Hewley. D.L. Hewley did a HBO special. He got his HBO special, and I can't tell you what year. But then he was on the Kings of Comedy, and he does the same goddamn routine. I never understood that. I'm like, no, wait a minute. He did the identical, and to me, it took away the value. It was like he almost did that on purpose to take away the value of the Kings of Comedy. Of course, Bernie Mac carried it. He was funnier than all of them combined. He carried it. But it was like, I thought that was dirty of DL. I really did. And I saw him 2, 3 years ago before Charlie Murphy died. It was Charlie Murphy, him, Sid, DL, Eddie Griffin. And Eddie Griffin was funny by far. But as I said before, Eddie Griffin told a Richard Pryor joke. You know, they always talk about comedians ain't supposed to be stealing jokes. He did a Richard Pryor joke. And unless you knew Richard Pryor by heart, like I do, you wouldn't even know it. It went over most people's heads. But I was like, I told my ex, I was like, that's a Richard Pryor joke. So they all have little Al Sharpton in them. Yeah, 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 no doubt, no doubt. I hate D.L. Hewley. I promise his timing was right out. That's so funny. Oh, that's funny. Zach turning people into gamblers instead of unplugging dudes. He doing the opposite. Uh, had a horrible NFL season. Well, you know, he does his thing. He got mad because I say that his thing ain't my thing. Numbers do have a role, but not into the where it's just everything. Again, as I said before, the thing that makes me look at him as most suspect, and I'll tell this motherfucker this shit to his face. Everything ain't worth analyzing. And when you see a motherfucker that's got to analyze every goddamn story, the way to beat the beast is to ignore it. The way to beat the beast is to ignore it. Now, I'm not saying be naive of what's going on in the world, but I'm saying some of these stories ain't even worth looking at. By now, you should be able to hear bullshit and like have a raincoat on. You know, really, you be able to hear bullshit and have a raincoat on where the bullshit hit your raincoat and just slide off. It ain't even worth thinking about. And it's definitely not worth doing a show over. It's like some bullshit come on about this war, and that's all I talk about. No, no, some of this shit ain't even worth studying. It ain't even worth. And so when you see a motherfucker that everything that comes out gotta be analyzed, that's them peoples. Ah! Them peoples. So he's been considered them peoples before. And I'll tell any motherfucker that what I've said, you know. That's why I don't go on his show. He tried to get me to come on one time because I comment, I watch some of the stuff. Because some of the stuff I'm like, okay, how does this break down? I can't say I don't. I do. But some of the shit you gotta ignore. You just gotta ignore. Down proves him and the pupil agents all this make observation at nerd to victory lap. Yeah, Jay. WAP all the time. Thanks for joining. The last video is weird. Looks like he's exposing the truth about sports being rigged, as we all know. Oh, okay. I mean, some of them try to show it. David Blaine in his commercial, you know, really was a mocking. I agree. DL's comedy ended after the comic view days after he became a sellout. That's probably so. After his TV show, thought he was funny. I never liked anything he played in. His routine was always making fun of people that played to see his ass. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, Lorenzo. Yep. Dick Gregory said that he owed 3 of the crystal skulls. What? Dick Gregory said he owned 3 of the crystal skulls in one of his interviews. Do you know about those skulls from the prophecy? Well, I doubt he owned the originals. He's probably got copies. Now we know that the one supposedly that Montezuma had because again, it was, it was based on the 13 days. Part of the token is 13 days. Part of the count is not 20 days, it's 13 days. And so the skulls goes, you have the 13 skulls, you put the one in the middle for 13, and that's how you make a time crystal. That was my understanding of my first understanding of how to make a time crystal. And through a time crystal, you bend space time actually. Now, the first skull I became knowledgeable about was of course, this Montezuma skull that was taken along with his crystal balls, his obsidian mirrors, and is over in the British Museum. The second one that I was known was there's a dude named he calls himself a Mayan. Let me see if I can look up this cat's name. It's Hans. Hans something. Let me if they put it. See if they put it in here. They talk a little bit about this dude. But there's a video of this cat, and I can't remember his name. Let me see if they put it in here. Here's his name. Hans Batz is his last name. They don't put his first name. So his last name is Hans Batz, and he's a brother that's from Mexico. And there's a video of him seeing one of the crystal skulls, and he places a ball in front of it, and then he kind of, gives it kind of bends down to it. I made the video where the John Wick 2 or John Wick 3, where they show them all in a line, like they like showing you that whoever they're called now owned all the crystal skulls. We did see that. So those are my only two really seeing. To say that he had them all, ooh, that's very doubtful. Again, why would they let him have that power? And then how did he know even how to use them? I never heard him talk about how to use them. So, I mean, maybe so. Doubtful though. It ain't no, it ain't just see, and that's the thing. When Zach came out, Zach talked about them peoples, and now everything's the Jesuits. And as I said before, the Jesuits is the army of them people. That's all. I mean, because of my teaching, Zach had to change his tune. Because again, I'm into Inquisition, Isabella, and how all them peoples. Isabella was the first to really put her foot in them people's ass, and she put her foot in their ass so deep. These motherfuckers was trying to get up out of Spain, and wasn't nobody hardly taking them. So you know what it was? It was like either become a Catholic, renounce being a Jewish faith person, or we sticking this foot up your ass and you're gonna go to the rig. We're gonna stretch you out until you confess or you become one of us. And so what they found is that they could control the world better through being in the Catholic Church. Now Zach had to break down and say, yes, Jewish faith people were joining the Jesuits. But again, this started with Isabella putting her foot in their ass. They was forced, and they saw, oh, we won't be fucked with. We can hide under Christianity. So the Jesuits is just the Vatican CIA, the Vatican's real army. That's all the Jesuits are. That's all they ever been. Exactly. Mathematics is just one of the many layers. Oh, yeah. It ain't the only one. Yep. Them peoples, that's right. Zach ain't the only one. It's another one that's making people lose money. He had bad picks last night. He said Duke was going to lose to Texas Tech. Yeah, I saw him put that out there too. I know what you're talking about. I took Dick Gregory information with a grain of salt, but I'm with him when he said that HBCUs are not owned by us. No, they never have been. They came out of Reconstruction. There's always state. I mean, again, everybody knows Howard, like Howard, A&T, like a lot of the colleges was made around the same year, 1891. Howard, A&T. But yeah, no, they were part of Reconstruction. And the people that set these up were a lot of times the church set these colleges up. Yeah. Tuskegee, all of them, same way. I'll say this about Reconstruction. One thing that Reconstruction did, and even though like a lot of people felt, who do you like, Booker T. Washington or Du Bois? There was what Booker T. Washington said about education was on point. It really was. It was like there is a way that you can have a comfortable life in America, and you can get it through education. Now, education doesn't necessarily have to be going to school. You can take a trade. because in Booker T. Washington's lifetime, trades was still a thing. But his thing was get this training, get this education. It was kind of both. You could get the training and you could get the education. So that had merit. And if you really study the biggest benefit that came out of Reconstruction, that was one of the biggest benefits, is that literacy was eradicated. Well, I'll say this. With melanated people, they stopped teaching themselves and they had a system they could learn from how to be successful in America. I guess that's the best I could say for it. But yeah, I went to, yeah. And let me say this. When I went to A&T, the state came in and the state like couldn't balance the books. The books were so fucked up and they were so corrupt. When I went to college, my coach was the athletic director and the coach. We never saw him during practice during the week. We saw him on Friday. He was the coach on Saturday. During the week, this motherfucker rarely came to practice. And you know, the way I like to be all goaded up, he was the same. He's a Michigan dude too. You know, I've known the coach. My coach went to college with my dad and my mom. So, you know, he was one of the crew, no doubt. But as I said, the corruption they did, even though we was on scholarship, they were still getting grants in our name and keeping the money. It wasn't until my last year in college that I got the paperwork. And I was like, what? I never applied for no grant. And they sent me the money. And the coaches tried to sweat me. No, the coaches had left. That's what happened. The coach had left, so the money came to us because the coach quit. And, you know, his assistants all got fired. And so we got our grant, which we was on scholarship. We wasn't supposed to get. So, yeah, that's how shaky it was. That's how shaky it was. Um, Simple Truth TV lost me a couple of thousand. He hit a streak where he lost 30. Woo! You know, he ain't nothing but Zach Jr. He ain't nothing but Zach Jr. And he talked shit to Zach. He talked shit. Dick Gregory used to always say that. Two Donald Trumps. Yeah, he did. Yep, he sure did. Saying it was two Donald Trumps. And I told the story. My son saw Donald Trump over in the Amazon plant. It's about 6-7 miles from me, maybe about 7 miles. And they saw Trump speak, but my son said he saw another Trump smoking a cigarette by the bus. And we know Donald Trump doesn't smoke or drink. And so it was another Donald Trump. He said he only had 3 of them. Still, oof. It was only 13. So maybe, but what happened to him since? I don't see that they would let that power in his hands. He probably had copies. Most NCAA tournaments always have to be Jesuit or Catholic schools to be the Cinderella. That's kind of, I kind of, yeah, I kind of agree with you. I kind of agree with you. Yep, I kind of agree with you. Uh, European woman forgot her name, started them up. Yeah, okay. Started the schools up, you mean? He always talked about Queen of England and his jokes, so maybe someone is connected to the prophecy. Could be, could be, could be. Uh, say the names because we know. Yeah. His video on YouTube when he said he owns 3 of the skulls before he died. I don't think he would lie about it at his age, but he dropped a lot of information before he died. He kind of did. I agree. Wow, I've never heard that. I guess I got to look into that because there's a lot of power. They still can't tell you how they made. They can't reproduce them. Like you can buy big skulls like that. They're not the same. Even with CNC machines, they cannot replicate those skulls. They cannot make them as well as what's made, especially not having the tools to polish quartz because all of them are made of quartz, and they did not have the tooling. They did not have diamonds. They did not have tools to polish them. So how are they made? And they can't. They've tried. I watched a whole documentary on them trying to replicate those skulls, and the CNC machines cannot get them as precise. Yes, okay, yeah, I got you. Yep, I had a brilliant book I got from my dad years ago that talked about Reconstruction, how when they started the colleges. Yeah, good point about the churches being a part of the HBCUs. Then pasture pork chops are the big part of the Europeans having them schools named after them, no doubt. Yeah. Yeah. Which one? Yeah. Hey, Marco, what's happening? Hmm. WAP all the time. I remember the author of Behold the Pale Horse, William Cooper, and how they did him. And who's the dude who just died? Fly did that thing on that dude who just died. Was that Bill Cooper that just died? And it wasn't that him, Bill Cooper, that just died, that wrote that book. And when you listen to him and him being a friend of, all that Anunnaki stuff, he said he was with partners with him. Now, Bill Cooper was the other guy. They were trying to say that Bill Cooper was Alex Jones. Was that who it was? But who's the dude that just died? The guy that just died the Wu Tang dude had on his channel. That guy. Yeah. No. Uh, Jordan Maxwell was the one that just died. Yeah. Jordan Maxwell said he worked with Stinson. He worked with Stinson. He said he was Stinson's partner. So that made me very leery. But I mean, Cooper worked for them people and put out a little bit. Virginia University had a school of theology. I think PJ, you said you was at I'm banging the shit. Wilburn. Wilburn State. What is that called? Wilburn, Ohio. What is that called? College called? I thought they had a theological school too. At Wilburn, what is it called? Central State. Central State. I thought Central State had a theology department too. Central State is in Ohio. William Cooper got killed by sheriff in his own home. That's right. That's right. I remember that. My about switched sides on him. My guy Bill Cooper switched sides. But yeah, Jordan Maxwell, Virginia University has a school. Jordan Maxwell, Bill Hicks is Alex Jones. Okay. Yeah, Maxwell, he was telling some truth, but when I heard him say he worked with Stincham, and Stincham's work is, he's very, his stuff is like, yeah, it takes you down the wrong path. Other than the mind, that's what people miss. When people study the Anunnaki, they do not understand the importance what he tells you about the mind. That is the most important of all that Anunnaki shit, because whatever this beast we live with, whatever this beast that took over, the mind was the thing that gave him absolute power. Gave him absolute power. And we talking about a God. A God needed this technology shit to run whatever, how it's run. So you talking about a God that still needed technology. Now, how much is a God is he if he still needs technology? So I don't know what name took over, Marduk, Enili, whatever name that took over, it used that computer to kind of where we at today. And so, yeah, yeah. So it's ironic that conversations got on liberals for being woke, but praise Alex Jones when he was a wokety woke. And again, woke mean a person that broke out of the system. Like woke almost meant like Neo coming out of the matrix. That's what woke used to mean. Now it means liberal. But do you see how they want to change what it means? I remember little sister say, "Yes, I'm woke." Well, it didn't mean liberal. It meant that I've woke up out of the system. That's what it used to mean. But you see how they want to corrupt spiritual stuff? So now you don't want to be woke. So that means you stay asleep, and you stay asleep to what the reality is. It's time for the muscle relaxers. My butt is about to sitting. I got to get a better chair. Alex Jones has the same teeth as Bill Hicks. He even received the award on behalf of Bill Hicks. Oh, I never knew that. Like 30 more connections. Wow. Never knew that. Exactly. Wow. Well, I think I'm definitely butt hurting from sitting. Um, I'm gonna read the divination because I do give freely. Oh. And Barbara Grady, thank you so much. Thank you for, for your support. I appreciate it. Vanetta, email me because the email you sent me not working for some reason. Not able to get through to you. And we missed Robert Gray. Oh, I hate missing that. I miss Bob James because of the shot. All right, tonight's card is it. It. Ah, this is not the right one. I don't want to read the long one. I want to read the shorter one. I was studying this shit earlier, so bear with me. As DeMarco will be saying, bear with me, bear with me. Ah, there we go. Read the shorter reading, y'all. I don't want to bore everybody. It, air, wind, quality, spirit, breath, wind, inspiration, presence, truth, co-creator of reality, simplicity, unseen forces, integration of polarity, focus, intent, symbol, spiral, whirlwind, or a hawk. Number two, polarity, color, translucent white, light, ellipticus, is the herb, white spider, corinthium. Baby's breath lily is the flower. Flower essence is red ginger. Female male union. Sin is copal, sweetgrass. Stone, Herkimer diamond. Quartz, clear quartz. Quasiquartals cross. Air element. Direction is the north. Shadow wisdom, choosing to see oneself as a victim rather than taking responsibility for creating one's reality. Your connection to divinity, issues of separation, and thinking you are separate from the spirit. Um, harmonic or your shadow transformation is learn to sense and experience your connection with the divine by acting on inspiration as it comes to you. Harmonic wisdom in interval. Mantra, let me see. Open hands, hands open beneath the mouth, blowing the breath on the spirit wind, moving the hand up, in and out. Ending when the hands together is the prayer. So I guess what they're saying is, would be the mantra and meditation. I am fertilizing and a looming force of the cosmic wind. Affirmation. I am the unified presence of the spirit. So pearl white is like the color of the marrow. I want to show you something. Brother Sean has sent me some greenstone, and I thought I had lost this. I had to order this. I had to order this online. Fairly rare here just to get greenstone that comes from Australia, New Zealand. Brother Sean sent me a piece, but I had put this in one of my hats. Very protective. Greenstone is very protective, and it was in one of my bucket hats. One of my bucket hats has a pocket in it, and so I was wearing this there when I was wearing that hat. So I should do a 24-hour live stream. Yeah, maybe one night. Get all hyped up. I might do it SD. I might do it longer. It's just to sit and I have to take a break and sit and my knee is starting to throb a little bit because I can't really sit with my leg on the ground because I got another issue in my leg. Like when I sit with my leg on the ground, I got another issue I got to deal with. So my leg is like I got my leg on a can. That's why if you notice, I'm not sitting straight towards you. I'm sitting sideways because that's the only way I can keep my leg like on this, the popcorn tin. It's like a popcorn tin. So because I've got another issue in my thigh that if I sit too long, the pain will really start getting in my thigh. So if I elevate it, it's a little better. So almost looks like a heart, kind of. And so, thank you very much for joining me tonight. Thank you for the ones that joined me this afternoon. I appreciate it. I won't be doing the responsible daddy hour, because it is school is out. And so as I end tonight, and again, I will be coming back on tomorrow night and talk about the games. And on Sunday, we'll talk about the games on Sunday. But Mora, it all starts with a gentle sadness. They came from their original homeland. They knew that they had exact numbers and years and days before they would disappear off the earth as a culture and lifestyle. but the civilization would build to a gentle love. They lived in the Creator's day and knew how to separate cycles in the great serpent. And remember, we are all reflections of each other. And to all my friends, all my relations, all anybody, whenever you watch this, as the Mayan would say, I am another yourself. So that's how I should be treated. That's how you should treat people. Treat people as they are another you. And as you rest well on your bed, remember your bed is the creation ball field. It is not the casket where, you are laid to rest. It is something spiritual that goes with creation when you lay down. And remember this most of all, love just is. It has no opposite. Love just is. It's no more, no less. It just is. And so, y'all, this has been the Chocolate Mountain Show with your super funky hero host, Big Pontiac. And so remember to come check me out this time tomorrow. Until we meet again, say less, say less. Say less, y'all. Thank you for joining.